There's star-studded returns, and then there's returns that make you break out the studded belts and tease bangs. This is one of those returns that hits both targets. Welcome to Everyone Who Does Music, where today we're taking a look at the comeback album from yesteryear's Scene Gods 303, with this being their sixth studio album, and it's called Need. While a lot of people have this misconception that 303 basically just released one in 2008 and then never did anything again besides like two random singles, the band has actually been producing steady content over the years, in fact ever since 2007. But it's pretty safe to say that one is their biggest success as of late and as of, up to now, with the album having over 250 million streams as of the time of writing this review, which I finished this about a month and a half ago, but we're not going to talk about that. Like I said, they've been producing albums over the years as recent before this one as 2016 with their album Night Sports. And Night Sports was kind of the last music we got from 303 for a long time, and it hit the right spots. It was a 303 album. You could tell the band put their heart into it, but it didn't quite scratch the same itch as, again, One or even the album before that, Streets of Gold. 303 is definitely not a one-hit wonder band. In fact, they have dozens of hits spanning over their catalog over the years. But this new album is another look into why they are exactly the opposite of a one-hit wonder. They can produce stellar song after stellar song and have plenty of tracks on this album to look forward to. In fact, I think this album is the band really finding themselves again, finding that same energy they had on Want back in 2008. Ironic because Want versus Need, 2008 versus 2021. And realistically, this band is 303 finding their feet on the ground once again and really coming into their own for the second time in their career. Just like we're sprinting right into this review, 303 came sprinting out of the gates full of fire and intensity, straight from the get-go with Lonely Machines. It was the first track we got from the Need era, which is ironic because it's actually the closing track of this album. Not only does this song have 303, of course, both members on it, but it also features a guest spot both vocally and I believe instrumentally from 100 Gex. This track, as well as other songs on the album here, holds a lot of tongue-in-cheek references, some kind of blatant and in your face, others not as loud, a little more subtle. This one has the first callback of many that would come forward from the album. You actually get this right in the beginning of the track, and I think it's a great way to not only kick off this new era, looking back at it as a single, but also I think it's a good way to sort of reintroduce old fans back into 303, because a lot of people, from what I can see, looking at, message boards, Facebook groups, Twitter discussion, a lot of people essentially stuck to Want and maybe came back for Streets of Gold, but for the most part took themselves off the hype train for 303 for the majority of their career. So this is a good way to kind of reel people back in and say, hey, it's been 13 years, but we're still loud and we're still proud about it. And while there's a lot of the same, this track is a really, really good example of how the band is willing to experiment and try new things with the very polarizing feature of 100 Gex. If you don't know who 100 Gex are, essentially, imagine music, but it's cocaine. I want to feature 100 Gex on this channel eventually. Like, down the road, they have some really good music that I think is worth discussing, and I'm also a personal fan of them, so that'd be really good. But once again, a polarizing artist to feature on there, to have them feature, on the first song back is a brave move from 303, and again, shows their willingness to experiment, shows that, hey, we're bringing you the same chart-ready hits, but we're also putting in some new spice. We're putting some new spice into the blend and trying something new, and I appreciate that as a fan and as a critic. The infectious dance-ready beat, complemented by vocals from members Sean and Nathaniel, are pushed up against the abrasive vocals of Gex vocalist Laura, and I really enjoy the ending part of the song where they're both essentially trading lines back and forth. You got the two entities coming to a head, really throwing it back and forth, past versus present, old versus new. It's a really good way to close out this first track back. The interesting thing though, this isn't the only collaboration on this album. There's actually another one, and this one, while it's good, does not even scratch the surface of being as wonderful and enjoyable to listen to as the other. When I ask you, who does 303 seem like they would do a collaboration with? I asked a couple of my friends that, and I actually have a list here on my review here because I read from a script because I'm very horrible without scripts. I asked my friends, hey, who do you think would collaborate on a 303 track? And this is what I got back. Let's see if you guys share the sentiment as well. I got back people saying, Ronnie Radke, Gerard Way, Chris Motionless, essentially veterans, at this point, veterans from the emo music scene, the Hot Topic and Warped Tour-esque scene. And, some of those I really agree with. Gerard Way would go hard on a 303 track, personally. Well, how about Burt McCracken of The Used? Burt McCracken, by definition of who he is and the music he creates, in this song leans towards more of a darker vibe and a more thematic personality is coming from him, as opposed to 303 is very sunshiny, very poppy, very energetic energy, but all the same, Bert's style really melds well with the core 303 style. These dark, mysterious parts coming from Bert really just sound natural somehow in the song being Vampire's Diet, by the way. I don't think I actually mentioned the song title up until now in the script or in the video, so apologies for that. But Vampire's Diet actually has a really good line that really exemplifies the type of music that Bert brings to the table here. I'm going to read it off here. This is probably my favorite line from the album in total here. Our death will be a live stream, emoji broken hearts. She sits in the asylum blowing kisses in the dark, but she's fallen deeply in love. His name's the internet. I love that so fucking much. Beginning of that set of lines there, you get the very, again, used-esque feelings and emotions there, but it closes off flying back into this 303 energy. Just like the clash with 303 and 100 Gex in the last collaboration track, this is another clash that, again, is done better than 100 Gex. Not saying 100 Gex was bad, but this one is the same idea, the same sort of concept, bringing in, a clash of an artist and doing it 10 times better. The song barely runs in under 3 minutes, but it's another great example of how length does not matter. Size doesn't matter in 2021. You can get all the substance, all the girth and juiciness in under 3 minutes. Take that out of context. Make me a meme video. The atmosphere produces a definite setting comparing the dead and lifelessness to a first date. It's really the perfect type of good soup. Coming away from these two collabs and stepping into more just original 303 content here from Sean and Nathaniel, a lot of people heard this song and heard this album, and said to themselves, well, the band have lost their way. That first single came out, and a lot of people said, oh, this is 303 now, just trying to cash in on what's hot, what's trending right now. But that couldn't be further from the fact when it comes to this album. While you do get the band putting on a reflective mask here and there, we're talking about getting older, going through life, and more experiences that they've had ever since they first burst onto the scene, you still get stuff that sounds like it belonged on something like Want or their 2007 album. And it sounds like just another 303 album at times. Oh shit, the dogs are pissed. There's a song Taco Tuesday on this album that starts off as something that sounds like purely like a joke song. Like the lyrics make you think, okay, they're fucking around, this is good. But it goes beyond just that good feeling of, hey, we're fucking around, we're having fun. It dives deep into an almost emotional state. What I'm about to talk about, it kind of reaches into slight boomer territory, but stay with me for the love of God. I'm 23, I hate boomer territory too, just stick with me. The song goes from seemingly just being a joke and overall fun for just being like, haha, we're so crazy, to kind of talking about this new, in their words, this new love that the world and the general population has fallen for. We're in love with loneliness. We're infatuated with the feeling of distraught sadness and just being able to get stuck and lost within our own waves of like depression, loneliness, sadness, just all the colloquial, whatever terms and all the terms that sound similar. There's a lot of people and a lot of groups of people that are in love with just feeling shitty because it's what's natural. For one reason or another, that's what's comfortable and that's what we gravitate towards. A lot of people will have that sadness and that loneliness come to them and they'll say, fuck it, this is my bed and I'm gonna lay down in it, and they take that and put it over themselves like a blanket, and that's just what they're stuck with. They allow themselves to become stuck with that, whether they can help it or not. A lot of people pass this off as like a casual thing that happens, like, oh, this is fine, I'm not worried about it. And I think that's what they were trying to portray with this introduction, how the introduction kicks off that kind of joking tone, like, ah, shit, yeah, buddy, I have depression. Subjects like getting drunk on Taco Tuesday, it's a normal thing. No, this is just what I normally do. I'm normally sad, I'm normally down in the dumps this time of the week, every week for my whole life. A lot of people try to think that, oh, it's just a party all the time. But just like this song makes you think it is at first, life comes back and hits you with that straight 1-2 punch and says, hey, no, it's not. This album is a flex by 303 that says, hey, we can produce sad boy tunes and party anthems at the same time. Let's talk about sad boy anthems. Early on in the album, probably one of my favorite tracks outside of Vampire's Diet. This is a song that straight up labels itself right on its forehead right away, lets you know what you're getting into, but provides a catchy beat to it? Would you consider the subject matter? 303 is definitely a party band at the end of the day. They're a band to come out on stage, say, "What the fuck is up, Chicago?" and make you go, "Yeah." But they can still produce music that's not only catchy, but tackles elements that they're not usually implementing into the core of their sound. I'm So Sad is a straight up, it's a self-reflective track in the way that they can say things like, "I'm a middle-aged cliche, got me thinking this way, I'm a rainbow of gray." They know that they're getting older. They know that they may not have the same luster as they did in earlier years, and they say, "Hey, you know, fuck it, I'm sad about it. Well, let's put some catchy beats on. Let's get a little like, You can technically argue that this album isn't really a comeback because Night Sports came out in 2016, and they've done some live performances since then. They've been somewhat active. But songs like this, Lonely Machines, Vampire's Diet, so many more on the album that give this feeling of, hey, it's not just a comeback. This is a reminder of why we're the big fucking dogs on campus. My focus thus far in the review has been on songs that tackle new and very exciting ventures for the band, but let's talk for a second about something that is a straight up callback and almost a lost track from a 2008 album. It feels like it's a lost track at least, with Maine on a Leash. From the beat, to the lyricism, to the straight up reference to a Want song, Choke Chain, with the line, "You cut me down to save his name, I think he should be the one who's choking on your chain." These guys know how to produce bangers. Just straight up. I can't say the same thing over and over again, yet here I am doing it. But these guys, there's something infectious about the way they do things. It's their 2008, late 2000s, early 2010s douchebaggery turned up to 11 in moments like this. They're talking about pissing in somebody's LaCroix. Whip out the silly bands, it's 2011 again. I can discuss every track on the album and talk about how it's a good example of old 303, new 303. It's a meshing of the two. But I've already kind of regurgitated the same thing over and over again, because this is a rare example of a band showing that over a decade into their career, they haven't really lost a step. Maybe some albums haven't been the full force ever that others have been, but this right here is an album that shows that 303 still got some fire left in their veins. They refuse to get lost in the shuffle, and they're able to not only adapt to the new music scene forming around them, but bring back some of that old classic 2000 and late fever. 303 is back to put a stranglehold on your playlist, and that's why I'm giving this album, Need by 303, an 8.1 out of 10. Yeah, that's been the review. This has been Need by 303 once again. And I want to thank everybody for watching the video, anybody who's watched any videos recently, whether it's one video, two videos. If you're a psychopath who's watching every single video on this channel, for one, please don't. And for two, thank you. No matter if you're here for the short term, the long run, you're gonna stick around for a while, or you're dropping off after this video because you hate my face and you hate the way my hair changes between every cut because I'm constantly brushing my hair out of anxiety. Regardless, thank you so much for stopping by. Stay hydrated, and I'll see you guys next time.